Dear Dungeon Master, call my character Ishmael. He was born on a summer day in Waterdeep in the year 951. And with a slap of a hand, he landed as an only son. His mother and father said, "What a lovely boy. We'll teach him what we learned. We'll dress him up warmly. We'll send him to school. We'll teach him how to fight, to be nobody's fool."
Well, how are you doing? It seems to be a hot topic right now, and it's one that keeps popping up in the RPG community every few months or so. Backstories. Some people love them, some people hate them. Where do I stand on backstories? Well, it kind of depends. I think there's essentially three main approaches to backstories. And the first approach is the complete minimalist approach. This player doesn't really write much down at all. Maybe he just says to the DM that his character comes from a certain area of the world, just is an adventurer out for gold and glory, and boom, he's ready to go. Now, obviously, this is certainly the easiest to fit in, and for a busy DM, it may end up being a blessing, especially if the character is amenable to maybe adding things here and there. In other words, his backstory maybe is in complete service of the game. If the DM wants a hook for something, maybe this is the character you can hang it on, depending on that character's attitude. Or the player's attitude, I should say. There's no real downside on these types of backstories, except for perhaps one thing. You may not want a whole party of these one-sentence backstory minimalists. A few are definitely good. Hell, even a majority probably is. But if all your players go this route all of the time, you just have to watch and maybe just make sure it's not indicating a lack of investment or interest in the world that you guys are collectively creating. Now, maybe it's just because they're very hardcore OSR, very casual gamers maybe, and they don't really believe in any sort of backstory. They just don't want to do that. And if that's the case, it's fine. Then you just kind of roll with it. You know, I speak as a DM who's maybe in a bit of an uncommon situation. I've run the same campaign continuously for almost 30 years. There's been a ton of history made with past characters, NPCs, events. So it's natural in my group that the players gravitate towards having some sort of connection to a past battle, a past hero, maybe even a past ne'er-do-well. But I also do understand that a lot of campaigns are certainly not as long-lived as ours. And many players just take the approach that, hey, my past is really just in the future, and what I do at the table from here on out is that future, so to speak. And if that's the case, that is just fine. So as long as you're pretty confident your players are bought in, but they just kind of don't want to do the whole backstory thing, then you are good to go with a group of minimalists. I say ideally, you probably want, certainly some of these folks in there, because a lot of backstories can get hard to juggle.
Page 17. I came home from Bardic College one day. So much like a man, my dad just had to say, "Son, I'm proud of you. Can you sit for a while?" I shook my head and I said with a smile, "What I'd really like, Father, is to borrow the horsey. See you later. Can I have him, please?"
The second type of backstory approach is probably the one that I don't want to say I prefer, because I like a blend of these first two, but I appreciate these. These are the ones that do a bit of a write-up, but they connect it to something in the game. They're kind of what you would call the enthusiastic but not crazy player. Maybe they're trying to help the DM by putting some hooks out there in their backstory, but really they're just kind of excited about playing in the game. They're enthusiastic. Maybe they connect their new characters to an old one, or to an obscure NPC the DM introduced at one point, or maybe even to another player's character. They don't view their backstory as an exercise in power over the game, seeking to supplant the DM's authority. We'll get to that in a minute. They're just really into their characters, and they don't throw a fit if you don't work in every bit of their backstory into the campaign, but they are extremely appreciative if you do. And sometimes you can have great story hooks by maybe going back and rereading and being like, oh yeah, you know what? The group is going to be in this area. What if I had them run into this character's, brother or, father or something? It could really put a little color into the world. And I would say it's in service of the story. And if you think about it, the beloved game of Traveler, in that game, rolling up a character comes almost with a built-in backstory generator. When you roll up a new character in Traveler, you of course develop your skills and history, but you also get scars, you make enemies, and who knows, they just might become NPCs in the current campaign if the GM wishes. Maybe even you meet some of the other player characters that are going to travel now with you. This approach has worked well for Traveler. There's no reason to think that a controlled backstory version by a player with honest intentions wouldn't help your fantasy game just the same. I think having a few of these players in your group is really invigorating. Captain Stern and Rogan, who many of you know from our regular Wednesday live streams, are in this second category. They do like to flesh out their history and put a few hooks in there for me, but never have they devolved into this third approach, which is the nightmare of every DM these days. Just as some folks find it hard to relate to having a campaign that's run almost 3 decades, I find it hard to relate to practitioners of this third way, the backstory tyrant. I think you'll find this version mostly, I hate to say it, but in 5e these days. And no doubt they'll spread to games like Tales of the Valiant and Daggerheart when they come out, which pretty much kind of courts this kind of player. The backstory tyrant is often the brown dwarf of the gaming table, not quite having the gravitas to become a competent DM themselves, so they have to punish the world for it by domineering the game table from the other side. Sometimes they're just legitimately mentally ill people in need of serious help. Other times, they're just insufferable attention whores. Nowadays, you may also find the activist kind too, who insist that current day politics enter the game through this back door of their creation. In any case, these players are bad news all around.
Page 83. So, in closing, my horse only eats steel-cut oats. If these aren't provided, my character leaves. We'll need to take the story back to my home. I like to see Mom and Dad occasionally. If you can't do this in the first 2 months of play, we are going to have some serious issues. You see, I saw how entertaining it was when Chuckles the Dwarf did it in my favorite Hollywood live play. So it's a guaranteed winner, right? For both of us. I know everyone else at the table has their story, but you have to admit, mine is probably the best, right? So looking forward to playing. You seem like an awesome DM. We're gonna get along great, aren't we?
You're dealing with malignant narcissists who aren't interested in a collective, enjoyed experience. They're interested in an ego stroke. They demand that the DM include large sections of their backstory in the game, and they pout or outright revolt if the DM doesn't comply. Reddit has become a haven for horror stories about this. I'm not sure what to say to a DM with one of these folks in their game. Maybe it'll work out, but chances are they're going to explode about something, and that something probably is going to be their backstory being ignored. Now, I'm certainly for a little gatekeeping in the hobby. Maybe if we'd done just a little bit more earlier on we wouldn't be in this position where crazy people are driving the bus, so to speak. And I think here you just want to make sure that you're gatekeeping this third category of nightmare backstory players and not the second. Because it probably can be a bit confusing. The line might be a little blurred. But you don't want to throw away someone who could be a great player for the simple fact that they wrote a page of backstory for their character and you kind of got the heebie-jeebies out over it. I'm not sure the best way to suss it out. Maybe ask the person how important it is that you work the story into the current game. If they say, oh yeah, it's very important, you might have a problem on your hands. If they say, hey, that's just there for you to use if you need, then you may just have an enthusiastic player who's going to help your game succeed. Well, that is all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I know there's probably some hardcores that think any kind of backstory is troublesome. I don't agree with that, but I understand where it comes from in light of the as I said, backstory tyrants out there. But we need to be able to separate friend from foe, so to speak. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think. I would love to hear it. If you're not a subscriber to the channel, consider doing so, especially if you like this kind of content. I touch on a couple different kinds of topics, and who knows, you may just like your stay here. All right, so please join us also every Wednesday for The Lair. That's our weekly live stream at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a lot of fun with it, and I hope I see you there in a future chat. All right, you guys have a great day, and we will talk very, very soon. Goodbye. Hey there, it's your boy Double D, and I want to tell you about a great offer from our friends over at Neckbeardia. That's right. We all love James and Megan, and I am happy to say they love us too. That's why they are offering a 10% discount on everything in their store just for my audience. If you haven't done so already, check it out at the link in the description below. They work with a fantastic 3D artist to offer you miniatures with detail you have to see to believe. No need to print anything out. They will take care of that messy and smelly business on their end. All you need to do is pick out your next character or the next group of monsters your party is going to fight. They also have some pretty hilarious subclasses for you guys that are still playing 5th edition, all for less than a cup of coffee. They have adventures, Atomic Punk 2160 by the Basic Expert, t-shirts, and a lot more. Why not support people that don't hate you? Use the promo code DND10 for 10% off your order. And remember that shipping is free for orders over 50 pounds. That's just a little bit over $60 US. Visit them today and don't forget to use the promo code DND10.
What qualifies you to be a U.S. Senator? You have 60 seconds.
Hi, good night, everybody.